It's been a wild ride, to say the least, for these last 63 days at the Capitol. The 2017 Florida legislative session ended on Monday in true Twilight Zone fashion, with extended breaks out of nowhere, secret meetings, smoky backroom deals, and a whole lot of drama. On the last week of session, it had become clear that the House and Senate were not going to be able to come to a compromise on the state's $83 billion budget.
Let us out of here!
In response, legislators who promised this session would be the most open and transparent in Florida's history did just the opposite.
I'll bet you this $20 gold piece it took me 20 weeks to save that you won't do what I just said.
During the closed-door budget conference process, a small, select group of legislators worked to combine controversial major changes in the law. Most of these poorly vetted policy changes were put into must-pass budget bills. This process made it so these bills could not be amended, making it easier to ram them through the last week of session with limited public scrutiny or debate. The first of these bills was brought up in the Senate Appropriations Committee during the last week. Legislators combined the language for two bills we've been following all session long. One that would risk the retirement security of Florida's public workers, and another that would shift the cost of health care from the state to our public servants.
The state has no use for your kind.
However, also included in this legislation were long overdue raises for state employees who haven't seen an increase in pay in well over a decade. With senators only giving this combined bill one public hearing and the budget deadline looming, debate got heated in the committee as senators tried to defend their controversial deal.
Are you telling us that you don't think that your members who are teaching our kids in our higher education system in Florida are smart enough in 9 months to figure out what's best for them?
I'm not saying that. I'm also speaking as part of the AFL-CIO.
So his members aren't smart enough.
I'm not saying that either. I'm saying the cost, if you decide to make that change in the future, is cost prohibitive.
SB 7030 passed the committee, but was never heard from again. Instead, SB 7022, which had never been heard, was used as the vehicle for this combo bill. That bill became part of the budget and was forced through the House and the Senate in the final hours.
Do I look insane?
Confused? Don't be. That was the point of this past week. As the expected last day of session loomed, some of the bills we followed all session died on the floors as both chambers couldn't come to an agreement. The most significant was workers' compensation. The House passed a disastrous package over the past couple of weeks, so our hopes for a decent, albeit not perfect, reform rested on the Senate. In the session's final days, it became apparent that the Senate would go along with the House, so our efforts went to defeating both of these bills. Fortunately, we were successful. We're waiting to see if there will be a final special session on this issue or if it will wait until next year. One bright spot, the secrecy bill, which would have locked the search process for university and college professors behind closed doors, was not considered by the Florida Senate, and thankfully, unlike many other bills, they followed their own rules and the bill died another year. The legislature was unable to reach a decision on the budget, so they needed a few more days of secret meetings, pushing the session end date to Monday.
Tell me the secret.
The Florida House was unable to get many of its radical education policies through the regular legislative process. In response, legislators ignored their promises of transparency and their own rules and met in secret to combine these extremely bad radical policies into one big must-pass budget bill. HB 7069 would, among other things, mark an historic expansion of public dollars going to private for-profit schools and charters, expand wildly unpopular teacher bonus schemes, and several other bad education policies. When the Senate was forced to vote on this bill, it drew harsh dissent from both sides of the aisle.
We're trading away the House, and this is what we're getting, bad education policy. This is the first time I ever had someone stand up and explain a bill where they basically admitted it was not ready for prime time. This isn't a finished bill. It's got problems, big problems. And we're already talking about, before we've even potentially passed it, coming back next year and already having to fix it. That really shouldn't be the way that we do legislation in the state of Florida.
This is not something I came to the Senate to do, was to pass what I think to be is bad policy.
For those who believe that there's enough good in here that we can clean it up later, you should vote for this. For those who believe that we're in a situation that Just like in our society today, we say yes too many times and try to clean it up later, and that sometimes maybe no is the best answer. Those of you should vote no.
HB 7069 passed both chambers as legislators scrambled to avoid a special session. Governor Scott is now being urged by students, parents, and teachers from across the state to veto this terrible bill. The past few weeks proved to be difficult for working families, but there were some additional high points this session. Legislation that would have decertified many of our public sector unions failed. Legislation that would have forced public workers to act as de facto ICE agents, helping to deport families under questionable federal orders, also failed. The most massive of preemption bills didn't even have a chance. And of course, all of these victories couldn't have happened without the voices of union members from across the state speaking truth to power all session long. The fight truly never ends. There are currently talks of potential special sessions in the summer, and the 2018 legislative session starts in early January. Until then, we want to thank the tens of thousands of viewers who have watched our update series over the past 9 weeks. Stay tuned for updates and calls to action throughout the year by signing up for alerts on our website and following us on Facebook and Twitter. Working families win when we remember, above all else,
what really counts is you being here every day. They hearing you. You're watching them. You've got our backs. We've got yours. Don't ever hesitate to walk in that building. You own that building. They don't own that building. You own that building.
It's our building, our process, our state, and our future. Let's continue to fight for it. Solidarity.
Distorted lexicon, he calls it faith, strength, truth. But in just a moment, Peter Vollmer will apply his